Hey, muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. And as always, muchísimas gracias to everyone for you guys' words, prayers, and all your amazing words of support. As always, from the corazón se los agradezco. And before I get into the story at hand, como lo dices, deuda, I just got off the live with everybody. And as always, thank you to everyone that was able to come in. And for those that couldn't due to certain issues in life, I do understand. Gracias. Now, to get into the topic on here, today I want to expand a little bit more on the message that I've been putting out since day one, right? How when we're on the streets, there's a whole bunch of misled, you know, things that get put in one's ear, right? After all, we're at that stage where soldados will want to be, right? But for this, I'm gonna take you back to Pelican Bay. Before this video, I sat down, tried to remember most of the names, but anyways, I disculpen. The ones I remember the most were the camaradas that were up there in the bay and this person, right? Today, I want to touch on how that green lights is just a greedy reach, right? On camaradas to fill their pockets and veins, right? But this is right after the Mongols and the Bilis had came to terms on working together, right? It wasn't as the Bilis wanted, but it was enough for the Mongols to feel comfortable, right? At least sharing pipelines. But you could say shortly after this, right? There was a vato that came in. It was all tattooed up, and even though when you're in Pelican Bay, you could actually see them to some point, right? You still can make out a lot of things. But nevertheless, he went as Pelon and he claimed he was a Mongol. And again, there was an understanding there, right? At least with the Bilis to the point where they were hands off unless you have a direct pipeline and paperwork on them actually putting in work on camaradas, right? Then there wasn't supposed to be no buts or ifs, but it was just go time. Anyways, this individual was in the same compa for 3, 4 months, I believe. And then the homie Mosca from Hazard, he got there, he had parole. He had been back there valley there for a while, but he had parole. And, in that period. But anyways, he came in the compa and, again, every time homeboy came out, his cell was with her shirt, so you see his forearms, and you know what he exposed when it came to tacos. But he represented himself as something, and you know, Billy from Avenues, Psycho. He had okayed his stay there, his paperwork, right? And if, as you guys know, if a Billy states something, it's not questionable. More so than ever, if another Billy don't want to start politicking, he's not gonna uprise any questions, right? So it went on like that till the homie Mosca got there. And, he did the go around, which is taking papels and everything. And he was a solid homeboy, right? For those that know Mosca, know his carnal Chango, and well, his family's tied up to Hazard, right? And, anyways, when he seen homeboy, he pressed the issue. I was just, could say a middleman, right? Because at this time we didn't have a Billy in the block, but we had a linea, right? To inform and back and forth. And he outbrows the issue that this vato pelón, for one, he pulled a lot of camaradas with him because he was a carnal. Again, I disculpen, it's been a while, but he was a carnal from East LA, right? And the homie Mosca, excuse me, from Hazard knew him real well. Basically, there was dirt on him. Maybe not on Papiro, right? And on Mapil with ducats, but he had pulled a lot of homies right with him to that side with the club, I guess, people that were at one point related to him, right? Homies that, you know, I was one of them that are loyal to the bone, right? But anyways, this included a lot of battles that get pulled out the programa for, some for BS. You could say some maybe had a good reason, right? Nevertheless, it was what it was. I see a lot of people come on YouTube and talk about, you had to be in one of the big fours to be a deal. Miss me with that. That's just a way of disguising and sugarcoating what it is. When you're in the shoe or anywhere and they get there, don't matter who it is. He eating good. He's considered a deal, right? And that's on a appeal and every angle. So again, it's just a way to sugarcoat it, I guess, right? But anyways, the homie has some dirt on the vato. Again, there was no appeal on him, but this was a good, solid homie, right? For years, that his work counted, should have counted, right? And there's an incident in Glendale, excuse me, I guess with the camaradas from Avenues in Tunerville with this individual, right? More so on the recognition of one of the vatos that used to be an ex camarada that had punched out or had made to punch out was recognized and a conflict uprose, right? Again, it was that time of a war, right? When the Mongols didn't want to cave in and well, I'm pretty sure it's been out there on the current situation with them. To be sincere, I don't know it to the fullest because you guys know I'm from Northern California and I always concentrated on us, to be sincere, right? So yes, I heard he said, she said a lot, but well, those that have been listening to me know. But anyways, this got put out there. Me personally, I got a team. I got a Chico, Smooth, but they were the ones that you could reach, right? At least in a quick note. And they were gonna investigate it, but then it went dead silence. And the one we got reply from was from Psycho from Avenues, and it was basically homie was good and he was off hands. He was bringing a lot to the caja to where he's more valuable to just look away and allow him to finish his term because he was back there for some type of possession. Again, we weren't able to look at that paper but the Billy, but it had to do with the possession. I can't recall if it was drugs or a piece, something of that. Anyways, and so at first it was let go, right? It was let go until another homie from Tunerville got there. For those that know him, they used to call him, excuse me, Travieso. He's about 10 years older than me, so he's like 55 around there. But anyways, he was also validated, but had gotten out and came back in a violation. And, basically when he called there, he started pressing that issue. I don't know who he was in contact with back there, to be sincere, but he did his thing through his avenues, right? And again, a warning came to the pot, right? Which was from Psycho that it was a dead issue. There was no stamp proof on this vato to even speak on it. And he was bringing a lot to the table in a partnership, right? So I don't want to come out misunderstand that it was a working for somebody relationship. It was common agreement, but money was being moved, right? Jale, which is the most important part, right? But anyways, there was no proof, so it was done, and within time, the vato he slept on it. He's just get overconfident, and it happens to all of us, right? You lose track of whatever. I guess homeboy felt overprotected or confident that they called him out to the court, right? They popped his cell. He came out without a shirt. And for those that know about this vato should remember he had a medal across his chest. But again, they, according to the EME Psycho, they weren't aware of him, right? Which everything like surfaced, but you could call it fear or whatever, but ain't nobody was gonna push on that no more, right? Besides these two homies, they felt they were in the right, and they addressed another Billy, right? And this Billy was working hand in hand with Psycho, which was from Maravilla, and basically they sealed their doom. It didn't happen when we were there. Again, this battle, they were on a violation, so they eventually, they cut their S time and go time, and before they hit the street, Psycho had him already on that list. And all them years, like I said, Mosca sat back there. He went out, came back on a violation, but he went out there and did his thing to open up guidelines for the señores, right? For which one, I couldn't tell you, but for his age and for the time he sat back there, pretty sure it wasn't just one, right? But at the end of the day, he was busted again. And everyone knows when you're busted, you could bust it solo, and whatever you have on the street, you gotta fall in line and allow the next man to take over. Which in reality, you stop being able to bring something to his table, especially on a violation, right? So basically, when we heard about it, of course, everybody thought like, man, there's no papitos, there's no whatever on this dude. That for one, he went to war with camaradas on the street over the camaradas actually stepping up to holding the police rules or guidelines, excuse me. And, they heard it, camaradas. One, two, you know, they were saying there was no proof on the dropout issue at this time, which there was, If me, like I said, that I wasn't from down south, had heard many a times about the rumors of these battles emitting this kind of individuals in the Ramfla, right? I'm pretty sure they knew about it, right? But what would you call a vato with a medal across his chest, getting there and claiming he's something else? Something else that went to war with that. But up until the point homeboy left back to the mainland or whatever, he was untouchable. Because all that mattered was he had a lot of people out there that could actually bring things to the table. And at this time, it was shoe living, right? So any avenue that brought dope and money to the table was worth more than a camarada. So, again, I'm from Northern California, so I can't really get into details on how big the war was with the Mongols. I heard it was serious, but to be given a pass and have two solid camaradas, that they should be older, just They should be guiding the round flat, not wanting to correct it, right? And getting minimized. Especially because they were hitting the streets, you know? At the end of the day, they have more value on the street. But this bought to Trump that because, you know, they had the wiggle. And that was important, you know? But they could wiggle in and out. If you guys get what I'm trying to say. But what more proof did he want besides him having a medal that he was a DO? That he had put down bandera and brinco charco, right? I mean, what else can you call an individual like that? But it's just but I always speak, you know, be smart. Don't allow yourself to get guided into something that is going to give you a life sentence as I was one. And have you sit down and see things unfold. And like myself personally, actually try to make sense of things and lie to yourself to keep pushing forward because you love what you went in for. You believed in it, right? But it's just a myth now. So it's always been, but now more than ever. So be smart. Don't allow things to get put in your head that, you know, as I once did, you come to find out it's not even like that. Those you hold and up appreciation and respect are the ones that quick like will take your win for a penny or for a fix. You know, be smart. Please stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Thank you for hearing me out. I hope I made sense. God bless everybody. Buenas noches.